Hello everyone. I would like to talk about today the importance of a certain practice. And you need to give yourself years of remembrance, self-remembrance training. And I'm going to explain what this practice, as it is a practical thing, is and what it is supposed to do in a sense. So as we find ourselves with our seat belts comfortably fastened in a plane in the sky, you can hear my voice through the speakers of the plane telling you to make sure you look out the window in whatever journey you're going on. Whether it's a physical journey, internal journey, or just simply you listening to something. Once you get sensitive to existence, it begins to have deep implications. Life will look more serious to you. That's why the sense of purpose would be one driven by the flow of existence you have resonated with. For example, now that I am talking it through different phases of my life, my purpose, if I just try to see it only as one physical purpose, as if I'm only here to do something for human life or that idea, I am limiting myself for what my purpose actually is in the present moment, and that is a full-out expression. So when we go and take ourselves instantly to completion because we have observed the incomplete, then we have found the ability to begin really clearly recognizing the longing within us and where that's pointing to. Everyone has a longing because the way the system is developed, especially how imagery and how you're carved through your conditioning, you will see that there is... The problem was never a mistake. You will really see the problem was never a mistake. The problem was never something that man didn't do. Do you know? Or man should have done. If you are considering the intelligence of existence in such a way, you are arrogantly accepting your own greater structure, which is actually your own self-creation. What that means is, if I'm the only one talking when I'm around others, if I do not cultivate the ability to listen, I will see that it's like I'm the only one talking and there's no new information. Do you know? So talking too much can similarly be the symptoms of man's attention to certain forms too much, which have disabled him when he is a presence of great ability. Great existential ability. In other words, there's one view of existence as the cosmos as separate, and there's one view as the cosmos unified. And I'm telling you, do not shape the unified. Go try to experience the unified, because we are having a real experience of our individuality. But we seem to not have been able to properly communicate the experience of our collectivity. And that's why we have lack of tolerance. That's why we still have violence. When you see violence, you don't see it as just the problem of man. You see it as a symptom of earth. So you become that doctor who not just studied the human heart, but the heart of all existence. And so you begin to see how man is present in his environment, and if man is the problem, or is this just natural phenomena, or is there something more to the feeling that there is something more? We need clarity in communication, and it is up to you to expand your ranges of reality. How you expand it is by contemplation. And what that means is that any moment throughout your day, whenever you get a chance where you're waiting, just simply become very still and observe existence. Observe everything, you know? See if the unified feel is really there. Because, you know, I really feel there was a sense of humor in how man was created in this existence. Because in his own self-revelation of his greater view, he will recognize that the illusion kept was only part of a greater intention. You will see that you have never made a mistake, but you have been creating imagery to amplify other imagery based on the intention of your work. At times, this is not your immediate body. Sometimes the presence of the divine attention that you are can position you in a certain place where you are placeless, but you are still in that place. You will recognize that when you get the collective's attention rather than the individuals or the intermediaries, the collective is its own inspiration by creating dynamics of movement. So this existential intelligence has kept part of our cosmos static and other parts of it dynamic. Do you know? And for one aspect of it to keep the world still with their formulas and theorems is not bad for anyone else but man. You are the scientist, or you are the spiritualist. It does not matter how you're observing the matter. What is very important is how you are aware of what direct experience could mean when words stop, time and space are no longer segmented, and you look at the sky to see yourself look back. Now, the reason I'm talking very deeply and with a certain emotional intensity about these is because I want to communicate the actual reality I see. So leaders are very important, and you will see a man, for example, let's take Martin Luther King, you know, or anyone who's given a great speech, right? There's a point where they have had so much experience that they know their voice can be carried on. And that knowing enables them to come to a table when they're around others in the present moment where they are no longer themselves speaking, but it is all that they are aware of through life, all the forms they have seen, all the various segments or aspects of memory in whatever geometric pattern the interest of the being could be to present it to itself. You will see that your mind is no longer separating things because it is finding itself being more able to look at things at a faster speed. Man's understanding is getting vast. This self-awareness stuff is becoming interesting. It is becoming interesting because man wants to create greater relationships with the cosmos, with his existence. We want to be explorers. And the greatest thing that you can leave in this world is to explore beyond the eyes of man and to write words that are like a smile, that are never clear, but all-knowing. And so, now, as we are on this plane, you will see that the view outside is beautiful. But this plane is no ordinary plane, because we see that you cannot be ignorant, because if you are, that is the nature, you're just stuck in mud. That is nature's way of keeping you at a certain position. Man forgets that, physical nature. There's a tiger around, man protects himself, builds shelter, but at the same time also is attacking his own sense of existential sensitivity as well. But regardless, you will see that we handle nature because there's also the game of survival. In other words, once we look in the eyes of an animal who is about to attack us, we recognize that man also knows how to be an animal too. But that is just an instinct of how we are acknowledging that reality. Because words suggest more than they ever could when you become nobody else's suggestion. There is a profound element to you, and you can let others shape it and try to go based on dogma, ideology, and the words of men who just wanted to say things they didn't really, know what else to say. That is it. But do not take this as arrogance, because all contributes. Because throughout your life, you will see that you will go through different roles. And in certain moments of my life, I was designed to be the victim. Do you know? And in certain moments of life, I had been a bit criminal. And what that means is that I noticed it is your awareness to how purpose has context to the concepts that you're seeing. The heart of man is his greatest teacher, because You will at first think it's a fluffy idea because media has done a good job of showing it like that. However, the sensitivity of love is grand because it is an existential sensitivity. When you are with your partner, you see that there is a physical acknowledgement of someone who you would love as much as yourself. Do you see that? Do you see that leap of thought? And so that is how a lot of value is created from the valueless. How you act and behave. Now, the pilot will fly you to the peak of your external reflection. What that means is that what I am trying to do without thought is to speak in a way where you will see that through the layering of how I am speaking, existence has always mattered to you and you know it. A good life, a harmonious humanity. I mean, look at life and work with bigger dreams. And when I say bigger dreams, it has to be one that's even looking at what would happen if you woke up. To wake up means to be reborn in the presence of new ideas. In a subtler level in regards to how one man can randomly walk into a bookstore with intuition and feel a longing that the question he's asked is about to be answered, and just opens a random page from a book and finds the light within his eyes meaning more than it has to. But very pleasantly adequate. The mind of man needs to be the most immediate responsibility of man. Your mind is more important than your body. Your mind is the awareness to all bodies. So by you reaching this point, a sense of self-remembrance will walk up to you. You will see self-remembrance because you look at the rights and wrongs of life and you remember yourself. Because once you look at it, some part of you is saying, oh, I also see it this way. And so when you get a reunion of a deep satisfaction by allowing everything to move, then you have the compassion that lets life speak in the most beautiful ways to be heard. I want to communicate a practice. And this practice is not really something that you should do continuously. Hopefully you can do it only once and you will no longer need it. But continuously you can do until you recognize who is doing it. So if you see that you're doing something more than once, suddenly observe who is doing it more than once, and observe that locality of thought in your memory. You look at your day, and I don't want you to change any of your plans. I don't want you to change your behaviors, your attitude. You are someone going throughout your day. Now, as you're going throughout your day, change a little part of something about you and observe how you are continuing your walk. What that means is that, for example, you wake up and you have a feeling that something's gonna be off, depressing, slow, whatever. These ranges of emotion are near you, you know. You will recognize that by going to your core through a moment of self-awareness and self-remembrance, where you're acknowledging your all that you know in this present moment, all the memories are here, you then are able to notice how your response to things can be a greater outcome. To continue, pretty much recognize that what you do is important to you, and practically become self-aware. Recognize that everything that you are aware of begins right now and present here. So the clearest space where you have the most clarity of what is real to you is right here. Now, as self-remembrance begins to move you towards your center, to your core, to your authenticity, to a place where lies can no longer enter into this temple, the sincerity of your being shall give you a knowing of your humanity that will always be in the most grateful moment of infinite change. You will simply just gravitate by emotion to very great temples, you know? In other words, we do not just walk in physical feet. In essence, I thought my whole life that my shoes were taken off when I went home. You know, I would take off my shoes, but I recognized that similar to that idea, to that imagery, the ideas that are around me, that are defining me as my environment and me, are like a shoe which can be taken off. When you recognize how your ideology is a shoe, you recognize why you've been looking at a shoe for so long. But you will see that it is not all lies. I mean, you will see also that the illusion was meant to be there. It was actually the spice of your life, in the sense that you always would, after you realize yourself through your real eyes, you will see that your knowing is how your place is placed, but then evolves to a view that no longer is limited to bodies of dense consideration and can fluctuate into a sense of imaginative, I want to say expansion. Because what I'm kind of suggesting with this is that it's like you recognizing your thoughts, and as you're aware of your thoughts, you are recognizing also how they are being relevant to you and how they're being made real to you. As you become aware of this, you also become aware of who is keeping the imagery there, and if the imagery is really there. So that is when existential curiosity comes and the longing comes, but you should still push further. And you're still going because you're being pulled by the unknown. You're being pushed further by the knowing that you're being pulled by the unknown. Because where else can you go after you've looked at all the things you know? Once you've read all the books in the library, you'll probably go find a new library. So take yourself to your sense of calm stillness, and through gentle remembrance, allow the expression that you are to be expressed. See that it is true. You are a self-aware being. That is one modality of how you can live as life. One with constant thought. It is more of a, let us just term for now, for a very short time, hopefully, as new ideas will come. The mind approach, as in the brain approach, and the heart approach. So the brain approach to life is actually how you are very still. You like how machinery works and you enjoy it, and you're that firm engineer who says, okay, I know there's the unknown, but I love the known because I can work with it, I can design it, I can measure it, and I can create beautiful things for the eyes of man to even see beyond, right? So you can choose to be a sense of very, I guess, rational, mechanical, and logical. But I'm saying if you are being one who is taking the path of intellect, which is not allowing or accepting greater unknown visions, that is fine, of course, that is fine. I mean, enjoy it, but also make sure you're authentic in your intellect. Make sure you're honest with yourself. Do not be a dishonest man who begins learning life. If you are one who you are not honest with yourself before you seek knowledge, you have actually forgotten to actually clean your glasses, and some words have gone unread. An honest man navigates like the wind of pure awareness. Honesty, authenticity, playfulness, and the allowance of beautiful continuation. Remember these things, and there is no need for you to ever be in an idea that is not ideal. Self-remembrance has a very interesting flow. What happens to self-remembrance is that you begin looking at your thoughts, and it's as if you are at first approaching them from a very individuated point of view. And an individuated point of view means like you're accessing your mind as if it's a file cabinet. You're thinking about, let me think about what I did yesterday. You know, you have that kind of mentality. But as you self-contemplate and very beautifully pay attention to how they meditated back in the day, you will see that the existential sensitivity was very important, but now man is too distracted by imagery that is actually a wall. You know, I'm walking in this life and I see some people just, it's as if they've just gone to a wall and they've stopped, you know? Don't stop. Constantly refresh your ideology just as much as you refresh your browser on the internet, you know? Constantly look at yourself through new ideas. Be in the presence of great ideas. Give yourself the best quality of getting accurate and direct information, and recognize that the most direct and accurate information in regards to self-exploration is direct experience. Direct experience has been the beauty of how the greatness of man has bloomed. There is no need to feel like a drop when you recognize your knowing, your ability, your compassion is the might of the waterfall. The waterfall that's never falling but returning back to the ocean. The conceptual imagery of heaven and hell that would dissolve into your greater knowing of the eternity that walks past the past. Once you acknowledge yourself very clearly, then you enable yourself by looking at what is the ability within you, in you. How are you able, my friend? For example, you're able to hold a spoon, but are you able to expand your greatest ideas beyond what you think? Inspiration is a personal responsibility. To walk with great ideas means you need to look at yourself and so deeply that you see a greatness, a great contribution. You look in the mirror and you see this man can change the world of men. And do it in a way where all men become aware of all men. Because regardless of what any prophet has said, if you simply look at the dynamic of a prophet, you see that a prophet is just a being who's aware of the collective. And he's communicating to the individuals that you're collective. He is the messenger. So what that means is that think of the infinity sign. And the prophet is the dot, and existence and the collective intelligence is the whole infinity sign. The prophet is the dot in the middle. And so that is why prophets were beings in my mind who others called prophets. They were never prophets, they were simply men who walked with the great inspiration and divine flow. A divinity that is not shaped, but it allows all existence to return to its core. It is said that mathematically they have seen that time can go forwards and backwards. And simply just this mere idea is very interesting because I want to make it significant. Look at this idea of how we have the ability to fast forward things, to rewind things, to pause things. And especially we've learned this ability from gaming companies and the controllers they've made. But you will see that the fruits of the moment is one that in your inner and subtler planes of thought, you have the ability to work with your memory in new ways. It is a very fascinating thing that you realize through omnipresence and through that innate knowing and formless knowing, the fact that you have access to the field of everything that has been memorable to you. So in other words, what you are individually associating as memory is actually part of a greater collection. And so if I just see a part of the cloud, then I am not really seeing the whole cloud, for example. Because the reason I use the cloud imagery, you will see that once you become existentially aware, the self-allowance that is within you and that is naturally coming, just like how a flower sprouts, or a plant sprouts, you see that you get playful with having more of an experiential attention on how your thoughts are moving. The movement of your thoughts becomes like similar to how the whole space in the room can be aware of anything that moves in the room. You get that relationship with your thoughts, and in a sense you get completely comfortable. Do not trap yourself in eyes that are never yours. And do not even think that there is a duality that cannot be observed in a unified way. What that means is that you might feel that in your harshest punishment, where you are feeling the worst suffering that man can potentially go through, you are also having the most blissful experience of the compassion that is observing you. So what that means is that certain beings who are, I do not want to, for now we're acknowledging them as beings, but the way that you should approach the invisible in a sense, how you should go through the doors of invisible perception is actually to not even shape a reality. You're not looking for something, your mind is hollow, you are empty. But it does not mean that you are not here. It just means that you are not looking at yourself through a certain thought. You're simply the observance of the present moment to all that is flowing. So for example, right now I'm sitting on a bench and I'm feeling a breeze. While I'm feeling the breeze, I'm also recognizing the ideas I have. And I also realize these ideas become a greater sense of my own self-communication, co-creating with the reality I know now. The reality that is real for you becomes actually your building block, because that is where your attention will go on. You are right now being here more interested by things that are real than unreal. So we have this interest. Now, if man has said, I have an interest in the unreal, if man is excited about the realms beyond his limitation, the realms of the limitless, he needs to take action. And this is where the pilot puts on his hat. And he recognizes that a pilot needs to be comfortable flying both ways. And so you need to have the ability to confront your darkest reality and brightest reality, and to see that you're peacefully walking on the veil very playfully. The veil that is keeping these senses and these states of being apart. But in a sense, they are really unified in a sense of certain being. Not certain, but in a sense of collective being. Your individuality can be clearly seen. So let's say it like this. Right now, people on our planet, the individual is looking at itself, and the individual is saying, I'm individual. So let me go see how I can put these individual things together. So he goes and seeks knowledge through books, words, and things that it's reading. But there's a way where if you become self-aware and you recognize that the center of the world is actually within you, who are centering how the world looks to you, you tap into a sense of collective observance of your whole existence, in which instantly there's the individual knowing. So if you consider yourself limited, you cannot even see the limitless. So observe where your considerations are coming from, and how you are being molded by the definitions that were just images observed. How does an image integrate with another image when they're two separate images? The images don't integrate. Your vision does. And so, my friends, I hope practically you approach your greatest view with a sense of the most beautiful reference you have, that is the clarity of the present moment. Now that you're clear, you also need to be sensitive and attentive to these intuitive flows of direction that are coming from. So let's say you were born as a child, right? So what was the next leap of educational advancement? You went to school. Now let's say you went to school and you found different forms of expression. Let's say you're someone who's doing different things right now, who has a profession, who has a certain life. You're maintaining the physical reality. Now good, that's your other education. You know, after you've got school, then you're going into life, and then you're getting a family, and you're going through these other experiences, and you're enjoying those rides, right? So let's say now that's another level of education. But suddenly, if let's say instead of you in those 100 years going that slow, let's say you suddenly realize, wow, there's many educational systems and there are many schools of learning. So you realize that you're not just limited to learning from your limitations once you're observant of them, because that observance is in a sense beyond the individual's grasp collectively. For the individual needs to know that it must let go of its individuation as it becomes the transition into the whole. And so that's when the light at the end of the tunnel is the same light that's always in your eyes. And we are very fond of brightness. Recognize this. You as a human being are fond of brightness. Light is our next technology. It's the next existential technology. So I see that, for example, we have great leaders, like, for example, Elon Musk. He is creating many things. He's moving man's industries. Now, because he's doing that, I'm glad he's doing that, but I'm also noticing, because I love the concept of technology, I'm seeing their existential technologies for consciousness. In other words, the way my life was designed was to get an appreciation of technology, but in how it is relevant to the mind, body, and to the awareness of that which is unspeakable. So I am the man who's trying to observe the technologies in Tao. I'm a very, probably, uncommon Taoist viewer. But it is very important because human technologies need to advance. So our greatest next technology is to get as an existence. You want as a being, as a living being, begin evolving your technology by self-contemplating self through self-awareness, self-reflection, and self-knowing and self-understanding. Suddenly see how you are existentially part of that light technology. It is very interesting for me. Light is not something I want to speak about at this point in my life. But I want to simply and very poetically point out, think of it as a mystic's playful words, that light is a bridge, but it is part of the bridge as we get an observance to sound and our geometric interpretation of all visibility. You see, geometry becomes a vehicle. There's a sense of geometric brilliance based on man's point of cause, only from man's point of cause. Because how a shape perceives you is not how you perceive a shape. And so the nature of these consciousness vehicles and in a sense playful imaginative portals is something for another time I shall speak about. But you will see this. You will see that the collective is leading you to its greatest discovery. And higher collective beings guide you by sending you flows of collective attention. Think of it as beautiful as the story of the grandmother whose spirit came to guide his grandson. You will see that collective reality is organizing your individuality to make it more inspiring for its individuality. So don't think that the collective is only thinking of taking you to high places. The collective is here to send waves of inspiration to all individuals. So a being that becomes existentially aware of his individuality becomes aware that collectively he is the gaze of all existence. And that gaze becomes an existential teacher. Man has the point and the ability to become the beacon that connects all lines of light throughout the cosmos. To say that I am the new individual that is walking to the collective. It's as if everyone is in the classroom except you. We are mankind is now walking into the classroom where everyone's wondering, wow, why is this kid late? What's happening? Was there a party last night? You know, everyone's wondering. And so it is up to you to very responsibly, lovingly, compassionately, and with the knowing of the most profound existential view to discover who you are as who you have always been. The poet's madness is needed now, for we need to not reduce everything to logical rationality, but immediately jump from our rationality, like jumping from stepping zone into irrational views of bringing complex designs. In other words, we need certain range of people in society constantly reducing things and analyzing it, and we are doing a good job on that. Now, we also need the poet's madness. We need those explorers who are just pouring out through their communication existential views of how we can structure very beautifully the unknown. The greatest vehicles in moving through any geometric light spectrum is the concept of beauty. And you need to have an internal knowing. You need to see that the flow of who you are is actually a burst of momentum. A burst of the movement that you have always been part of. You will realize the great leaders you have been, and you will realize the great leaders you have become. And in the moment that you shall speak, within the silence, all has been done. Much blessings and namaste.